The Brunswick-Glynn County Joint Water Sewer Commission will come to order for its commission meeting Thursday, August the 3rd, 2017. I'm going to lead the prayer. You all are welcome to join us in that. And then I'll also start the Pledge of Allegiance. You stand down again. Lord, we are meeting today to conduct matters of Brunswick-Glynn County Joint Water Sewer Commission. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that we may successfully guide the JWSC in accomplishing its mission of providing quality water and sewer service to all the citizens of Glynn County in accordance with federal, state, and local laws and regulations. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have anyone? No? Okay. The first order of business is I have a request to make an agenda change on under approval number 4. It says rate resolution and policy revisions, and change that to legislation and ordinance. And is that a discussion item?
Kind of, but it does require, I mean, the memo does have a motion.
Motion, okay. So if I could have a motion to change that item to legislation and ordinance by Mr. Darby.
So moved.
Second.
Awesome.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, that's changed. We have been in contact with Mr. Bowen. He is at a meeting with his attorney that he cannot break from to come to this meeting today. Could I have a motion to excuse his absence for this meeting?
Yes, so moved. Second.
Second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, and that's everyone, that's approved. Okay, so we'll start with committee updates, compliance, and legislation. You haven't met.
Yeah, we have
Facilities, either as finance, human resources, and safety.
So we met this morning, and nothing was discussed other than recruiting and termination stats, and nothing came out of that meeting that to be brought forward this board.
Public information and customer relations.
We have not met.
Did you want to schedule a meeting?
I think I would like to, if the staff needs to have a meeting, and I think would the 16th of this month work, which is Wednesday, the day before our next commission meeting?
I think so.
We have compliance
Same
meeting
day.
at 2 o'clock that day.
16th is Wednesday or something.
Compliance is at 1 and finance at 2 on that day.
On Tuesday the 16th?
Wednesday.
Wednesday the 16th.
You want to do it that morning?
I can do it that morning. Sure. If you want to do it that morning, we can.
Would that be all right? Just calling out, Jay, we've got some stuff we need to cover in committee based on survey discussions.
Yes. Did you happen to see an email from me yesterday regarding a survey?
I sure did.
Okay. So,
Saw that.
but hopefully this is not out of turn, but I'd like to, if we've set that date, then I would like to have the survey go live so that we have some data to look at and some initial feedback. And that would give us the opportunity to also discuss the new online payment portal and the billing system updates, get some update from from John as far as what we're doing on the customer service side to make it easier to take go online and see your previous statements. So we do have some items we can add to the agenda, yes, sir.
And just a quick explanation on the survey that Jay is referencing. We understand there's some customer service needs. We kind of set together and made a plan to measure what those problems are and to take a proactive approach to figuring out what's wrong, what we need to do to get it fixed. Jay has a survey that's ready to go. We're just going to set up to start doing follow-up surveys with customers who actually have done business with us, either walk-in or telephone. Figure out what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, and make sure that things we're talking about doing are going to adjust or fix their needs. And then we're going to do a survey after we've implemented stuff. But we can talk about that in more detail when we meet on the 16th.
Yeah, that sounds good. So prior to the 16th, the survey would be implemented just for those customers that have already contacted us.
Yeah, folks that have actually had contact and had an experience with us, we want to measure not opinion, but actual experiences to see where we get our marching orders, so to speak, to improve on what we're doing.
I think that's good.
So,
And then we can meet on the 16th,
at 10.
10.
And on compliance and legislation, Charlie, I want to look at establishing and how we establish fines to the city and the county, and I'll discuss that a little further in the meeting. Okay. So that's through the committee updates. Anybody have any further comment? We're up for approval on the minutes from the January 20th regular meeting.
Motion to approve July 20th minutes.
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, minutes approved. Executive minutes. I can't get anything over. Okay. Got a motion on the executive session minutes?
Make a motion that we accept the executive session for July 20th.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. Next is the pump pre-purchase for SPLOST for the North Mainland project. Cosby.
Good afternoon. Before you have a memo. What we're looking for today is in regards to the North Mainland SPLOST project, Phase 1. If you'll recall, this is our design build project, and we're at that phase of the project where we need to pre-purchase the pumps in order to make the lead times to keep the initial project plan on task. And so before you'll have the quotes from Xylem, and if you'll recall, we have a single source agreement with Xylem and Godwin. And so one of the reasons we decided to do the pre-purchase on this ourselves is one, to take that discount that we have from them being our sole source, and also to not have a markup applied to these items. And I believe the lead time is between 14 and 18 weeks is what they're projected. And we actually have an expedite option that we are probably going to exercise with regard to the delivery of these, and those are contained there in the quotes as well. But the grand total that we're looking at for the pumps and the components to make those work right is $268,599.73. If you have any questions about that. And Harry will probably get more in this in the actual project update with SPLOST North Mainland, but I'll go ahead and answer at least one question I'm sure on everybody's mind. The 30% design presentation, we'll be having that in 2 weeks. And so that's when we'll have kind of a little bit firmer number on what our budget's going to be for the overall proposal. But at this point, these pumps, it's critical that we go ahead and get them on order for lead time. That's why we're here today asking for that approval.
How many pumps have we ordered?
This will be 3.
At 45 apiece?
No, there's 3 separate quotes there, so that'll be some of the components that'll make those 3 pumps work.
Okay.
So there's components, some of the electrical and panel type
Right,
things
okay.
that make that work on the outcurrent.
Rails and pump bases are ordering this, they haven't given us the panel quotes yet.
So those will come later.
Yeah.
So this won't be the last of the equipment that we need to order, but these are the things that have been identified as extremely long lead times. And so we want to stay on task and deadline with this project, so
Critical path items.
thank you.
The delivery of these, were these manufactured overseas?
Yes, sir, they are.
And this is August. Say, this is August we're looking
This will be November at
at.
best.
So is that timeline going to work?
Yes, it will. So if you'll recall, some of the components, the way this project is going to work, we're just referencing 3 of the 6 stations that are going to need pump work. So there's combinations of where pumps might be moved from one location to another, and some upgrades with some existing things that we have. So these are the new pumps that we would have to purchase to make all 6 stations give us that, final capacity requirement that we're looking for.
Okay.
And I believe the deadline for that is end of year, where we're at on that number, or even sooner if possible.
Well, usually they, in the quote, they're going to tell you it's going to take them this far out. They get a purchase order, sometimes they get weeks sooner, sometimes.
Well, the part I can control is the purchase order, and all I need is you guys to say yes this afternoon. I have it loaded up and ready to hit send.
Okay. All right, thank you.
What's the difference in price between expedited freight and regular freight?
I believe it's 5,000. If you will look on the, sorry, I probably should have numbered these a little bit different to make it easier for reference, but it'll be the final one in your packet there. $5,006. So right underneath that, it will be on page 2 of 4. Do you see the freight charge of $5,006? Standard freight options production time for the pumps is 10 weeks. Ocean freight to the site is approximately 6 weeks. Lead time for the approved submittals is 16 weeks, but that's not going to apply here. But if you do the air freight option, that'll be 5 to 10 days. So we can cut several weeks off by taking an option.
How much did we budget for this project? What we just did we give a set price?
Well, I believe the overall SPLOST projects, all phases in, we were approved for 15 million. Is that correct?
11.7. 11.7 million on the total North Mainland.
How much?
11.7 million.
That's what we have SPLOST funding for.
But this project, this right here, this phase here wasn't itemized as we're gonna pay, let's say, $500,000 for this. one,
No,
or
there was
got
not
lumped into everything?
finite, it was lumped in.
Harry, do you have the project cost estimate for this so far?
I don't think we've got it from the engineer of record yet.
We don't have our final guaranteed maximum price, but one of the things that we'll say is initially, when we were talking about how the different ways pumps could fall into place, there was a, back of the number napkin, almost $900,000 in pumps that we thought this would be, depending on what we could redeploy in our existing pumps and upgrades.
Pumps, ancillary equipment.
Right, piping and that type of thing.
Control panels.
All those other components.
Okay.
Well, I move that approval be granted to pre-purchase these pumps to be installed at pump stations 4005, 4006, 4028 as part of the SPLOST North Mainland sewer improvements in the amount of $268,599.73. We don't need these motions to be so darn long, do we?
I'm gonna refer that question to my attorney.
I second that. Not being so long.
Are you seconding?
No.
Second along with I got one question.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Pam, you mentioned the fact that we were saving some money. You didn't show us or tell us how much we are saving by pre-purchasing.
Okay, so our typical program with Xylem and Godwin is we get a 20% discount on pumps and 15% on parts that are associated with that. It's not actually reflected in these quotes because it's kind of, I guess, our everyday pricing with them. But if we were to have allowed the contractor to purchase this, you would have not enjoyed those benefits. And you probably got a markup on top of it.
Oh, you
So-
most certainly would have gotten
So
more.
we're really saving.
We are.
Okay, very
I mean, if we were gonna buy these and install these ourselves, it's the same dollar figure, but by the fact that we are gonna contract this out, we're, saving markup and what their list price would be versus ours.
You did mention the good stuff too. Very good.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. Legislation and ordinance.
Good afternoon. First, I want to take an opportunity to discuss the recent ruling on mandamus. Its overview is contained in the memo, and the actual order is attached at the end of the memo for your perusal. On July 31st, 2017, Superior Court of Glynn County granted a writ of mandamus ordering the JWSC to issue to RLF Carriage Gate tap receipts for 50 lots. It did not order the JWSC to allow access to the system. Importantly, the arguments made to the court by RLF Carriage Gate was that there was nothing specific in either the JWSC enabling legislation or in the water and sewer ordinances stating that the JWSC had the power to deny someone access to the system in the interest of public health or safety. We argued that the enabling legislation specifically required the JWSC to operate and maintain the system in the best interest of the users, and that the ordinances specifically require that the user submit an application and obtain approval from the JWSC before the tap receipts can be issued, and accordingly, if there exists capacity concerns, the JWSC could deny such an application. That was our argument. The court noted that whether there was capacity for the development should have been determined by the Glynn County Water and Sewer Department when the development was approved by the county in 2004. This, of course, was before JWSC came into being. Ultimately, RLF argued that they were not seeking access to the system at this time, but only wished to obtain tap receipts so that the subsequent lot purchaser could obtain a building permit. The court ordered just that, the issuance of tap receipts. That occurred earlier this morning. However, the court specifically noted that the JWSC maintains the power given to it by the water and sewer ordinances to suspend or discontinue system use in the case of emergencies. Therefore, in order to remedy any alleged ambiguity in the ordinances related to the JWSC's power to deny access to the system in the interest of public health and safety, the JWSC should seek to revise the legislation and the ordinances to make more specific its ability to approve and deny access to the system in the interest of public health and safety. Are there any questions regarding the ruling? I know it's 14 pages, so I'm sure there's some questions by some of the commission. 10 pages. Does everybody understand the ruling? All right. Okay. Well, what I recommend recommend that we do is begin revising the enabling legislation to clarify the JWSC's power to deny and suspend access to the system in the interest of public health and safety, and request that the county and city make necessary revisions to the water and sewer ordinances to clarify that JWC has the power to deny any access to the system in the interest of public health and safety. And essentially, I just want to bring this before the commission, make sure everybody's on the same page. We're not making any revisions to the legislation at this time. That'll go before the legislation committee. Of course, we can't make any revisions to the ordinances, but I did want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with our intent.
Okay. So the motion here is just for you to draft the revisions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, will those revisions come again to be approved?
Yes, sir. I'm going to present those August 16th at the legislative committee meeting. And then the ordinance revisions, I'll work with Aaron, get him what I believe needs to be revised. And then, of course, that'll go before the two commissions, the city commission and the county commission.
We don't really need a motion today.
I'm not sure that we need to do a motion, it's just
Yeah.
direction and guidance to go ahead and do this
Yes,
and
sir.
present it to the legislative committee.
That would be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, work it out, bring it to the committee, and then we take it to, bring it back to the court office.
I think that's-
Yeah, and after the legislation meeting, it'll be put to the full commission again for the legislation.
Right.
Because there's a lot of other changes we're going to make as well, or a few other changes.
Yes.
Now, we're going to have more time to discuss this in executive session.
We're going to discuss what we're going to do going forward. Yes, sir. But I'd be happy to answer questions about the ruling now.
No, I'm not really, I guess my questions aren't for the ruling, are more for the ramifications.
Well, we can discuss that now as well.
How is this going to affect other developers and other contractors who were kind of refused those taps?
Well, what the court ruled was that this development had approved plans, and therefore, because they had approved plans, then we are required to issue them tap receipts when they apply for the taps. It did not rule that we had to grant them access at this time. Of course, there are no houses out there right now that are built that are requesting access at this time. So any development that has approved plans can come in, pay their tap fees, and receive a tap receipt, which would enable them to get a building permit, build a house, and then request access to the system. And the court, on the next to last page of this decision, noted that the water and sewer ordinances expressly grant JWC the power to suspend or discontinue system use, and cites the two ordinances related to emergency suspensions.
Okay, so just because we have this ruling, I guess what I'm hearing is we are at minimal risk for any future lawsuits due to this.
Well,
We could be sued.
We could still be sued.
But if I'm interpreting what you're saying, even if we got sued, it appears that this is on our side to allow us to make the decision based on the facts on the ground.
Right. We won't see any lawsuits like this one because people aren't going to be denied tap receipts at this time.
I guess what Commissioner Ford is asking, we have denied taps, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Tap receipts.
tap payment, tap,
Right.
are we liable for people to come back in and they can purchase taps now, but are we liable for anything that we prevented them from doing by our actions?
That's not been determined yet, or that hasn't been determined yet. Certainly, a lot of arguments against that.
And then my question would be, is all those people we have denied taps to, because of this ruling, can they come in and get taps at previous prices?
If they made an application and paid prior to the increase. But I think this was the only developer that did that.
So,
Okay.
but we can,
There might be one more.
we,
Okay.
so
There might be.
we've got an application in, we'll have records of it.
Okay.
And how bad did we lose, like, legal fees and attorney fees and all that?
That has not been determined yet. This is just a writ of mandamus. No damages have been awarded or determined at all.
Okay.
All right.
I'm done.
Commissioners, further discussion? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Discussion debt collection policy, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, here, 2 weeks ago, we got our policy for being a little more, or refining our policy for collection of delinquent accounts. During the time since the commission passed the original policy, the staff has been working diligently to exercise the new policy and get things going to recover a lot of the bad debts that are sitting out there outstanding. In doing so, they found a number of minor glitches in the system and some things that are just anticipated glitches that haven't arisen, but we're trying to be proactive in preparing for it. And today I was going to provide a brief discussion of the changes that were made to, I guess, flesh it out more and to refine it to make sure it covered situations we hadn't anticipated that have arisen or could arise. And then quick, you've got a copy of the revised policy in your possession. The refinement, the big items that I'm going to call out on here, for any one of those less than 500 that's delinquent, we can give them a break and break that into 50% payments over a period of, let's see, it was 2 weeks. No, in
15 days.
15 days, yeah, a 15-day break between payments, so that if somebody didn't have the $500, up to $500 in their pocket at that time, it'd give them a chance to collect another check before they had to pay the other half. The second major item was we worked on the promissory note option, better define that to cover the what we could and couldn't do in that regard, to refine it and stretch it out to up to 24 weeks, depending on the situation. Now, the third big thing it's calling out is the 300% of federal poverty guideline, which says that's part of this. It allows us to go up to 24 months on a promissory note if you're up to 300%, but not greater than 300% of the federal poverty line. If you're 110% or less, which is the next item, we've got an open-ended payment policy which doesn't restrict the number of months or the time period. It allows us some flexibility in setting that monthly payment above and beyond their normal use to a level that fits the customer that shows up. Beyond those changes, the big thing we recognize is that, as always, there's going to be those customers that just are not satisfied no matter what. If you can't pigeonhole every single situation and circumstance. But we think this gets everybody as much as it should and is fair to all parties, we feel like. To that end, knowing that there's going to be unsatisfied customers from time to time that just don't, rather than having to march through each and every supervisor in the group, we've got a very able-bodied staff that understand the policies very well at this point, have worked through it, helped develop the refinements. And what we've decided is, For the customer that just can't fit themselves into one of the options that makes sense according to their situation, we're gonna tell them that we're not gonna pass you along to anybody else in the chain. The next step, if you're not willing to accept what our customer service rep in charge of this program is doing, is to file a formal complaint that indicates how you're not being treated fairly or being not getting the right outcome for your situation. To that end, we'll pass that formal written complaint. We've created a form that staff has made to fill that out. We'll turn it in, and what we're going to tell our customers that have to go that route is that within 10 working days, we formed a small committee of staff that's currently working on this issue, and within 10 working days, we'll respond to any customer that submits one of these complaint forms to let them know our ruling. But we're going to put the onus on them. We're going to give them a copy of the policy and allow them the opportunity to show us where we've missed the boat, if we have. The other thing I want to note here is that in the document, we're going to make note for folks that come in that if they get on a promissory note, payment failure can result in credit rating impacts. Just because if we have to go to collections folks always take that straight to the credit bureaus. One of the other things, the last thing that I was going to point out today is the fact that as part of this program, we're going to be addressing, our target is 100 accounts a week, which we think is a pretty aggressive number, particularly with the different situations and outcomes that could be out there. So Colonel Bowen and staff have come up with a letter, an insert letter that's also in our packet today, that will be sent out to all of our customers, and it basically indicates to the customer, if you've got a delinquent account and you'll get in here before we contact you and kind of more or less press the issue for you, we're going to have a little bit better terms than if we have to chase you down to get this done. So that'll maybe mitigate and speed things along for a lot of this, we hope. But we're going to get that letter out in the next 2 weeks, start the cycle in the next 2 weeks to get that letter out and notify folks that if they're concerned about what's out there, we're going to try to work with them a little harder if they'll come forward and contact us first. And those are the changes, and again, they're summarized here in the package you see before you, but I want everyone to know what we were doing to continue to push on this program and get the issues resolved that have been lingering out there. And I don't have on the top of my head, do we have an updated number today, John, from the report I saw this morning?
I don't have it on the top of my head. The last number that I had was $201,000.
So 201 of the almost 2 million that we
We had, during the implementation of the software, we had suspended the collection effort for 2 weeks during that process to allow staff to get up to speed. So this has just started up again at the beginning of last week.
Well, let me say this too. I know at the last finance committee, we had data that was kind of in a raw state. John and staff are working right now on a refined detailed report that'll give us a lot of statistical analysis of, how many of the customers have been contacted, how much the money's been recovered that we see out there in delinquent. It's also going to tell us how much more is out there in the form of folks that have been contacted but have taken on promissory notes, which means we're on a pattern to get everything collected from those individuals. And there was going to be a breakout of the monthly revenues we expect from those promissory notes. So we ought to have an ongoing update of the status of basically all the big things going on in that regard to get this collected and find out where we're at and getting that done. Again, there's 2 or 3 issues out there that are just going to have to wait for the courts to get done. But other than that, I think we're on track to really make some big impacts in the next few months. And after that, it'll slow down once we get past the big dollar debtors.
another thing that kind of got it slowed down, had this computer program and now we're going to this one.
Oh, yeah.
And in order, they had to go in by hand and find the account number and then the meter number, because you don't want to go out to an apartment, pull the wrong meter. And that had to be done by hand. Then we send a work order down. The guy has to go over there, find the meter, and disconnect it, comes back, and then notifies it's been done. The people come in to make the payment, then we have to go back and hook it back up. So it's going to be a time-sensitive program, but with the new computer program, I think we're going to get it worked out where a lot of these numbers will just come in and go right into the form, and that saves a lot of individual time tracking down numbers.
Jimmy.
Sir.
I'm a very optimistic person, but I also know that, we send out these batches of 100 or, we're gonna have a certain level of responses, positive responses, and there's gonna be a certain level of, way down here.
Ignore us.
We're not gonna get anything out of some folks. And, will we be able to know as we work through the total number, will there be along, will we be able to see how many folks that, we're not
Not going to be able to achieve the outcome.
anything from?
Yes, sir.
Even if we have to pull the meter and disconnect and all that, but still,
Exactly.
that balance owed is still part of the bottom line that we're owed.
There will be those individuals that will have to pull the meter, and I don't know, I can't say how it'll be resolved. It could be that a large number of them will be bad debt write-offs at the end of the day. But at least it'll be off the, delinquent accounts. We've done everything we can do to collect those funds, everything staff can do. But I think most people, if you can work out a plan, and that's what we really try to do. We've got a lot of flexibility, particularly for the lowest income folks out there, and they're the ones I would be the most worried about. If we've got some plans that allow them to manage things without beating over the head with a 2x4 figuratively, we ought to be able to accommodate them if they're, willing to work with us. If they're not, we're going to pull the meter.
Well, I was just saying that as we move forward with this thing.
Yes, sir. We're working on it as we
We're
go.
looking at the numbers. Let's say we start out with $1 million owed, and I'm just picking a number.
Yeah.
But, we've collected 201,000. Okay. That's out of those that are the positive responses.
That's correct.
There's probably folks in there that's also been contacted that we already know we're not gonna get anything from. Now, so that 200,000 from the 1 million would leave 800, but some of that 800 we already know we're probably gonna have to write off.
Yeah, or we're not getting, currently have somebody's come in to respond and make good on their situation.
Yeah, so I would say, if you're looking at I would like to see, if you're looking at the 1 million that we started with, that we're gonna try to collect, we got 200 there, leaves 800, but of the 800, there's also a question of 80,000 or whatever.
We can pull that
We've
staff
already
together as
contacted
well.
80,000 worth that we don't think, I think that'd be good, because
We can add that to
we
the
keep
report.
looking at that balance as had, we may have hopes, that, hey, we're gonna get it.
Yeah, and aside from one of our biggest debtor that's got a court case sitting out there that just doesn't seem to be moving for any reason, and John, correct me if I'm wrong on this, there may be a lot of folks that don't come in and do something about it, but I tend to believe most of those are going to be the small enough dollars that even if there's a lot of them that don't make it in, their numbers compared to that $2 million starting point is going to be a very small percentage. But we'll for sure get that collected up an itemized, or not itemized, but summarized for the report that you guys start to get.
It's just kind of a good estimate, you know, what we think we may have to go.
How much we'll have to write off at the end of the year.
Maybe right on. Just have an idea.
Of course, part of this will go, we have a collection agency that takes the ones that we can't do anything with, and then they try to do something. But I've also met with the magistrate's court and talked with them, to let them know that we may have cases coming, and they'd be willing to help us with that.
Commissioners, any other questions or discussion? Okay. We'll go on to our capital projects update.
Mr. Patel is substituted for Mr. Collins today.
Thank you, Chairman, Executive Director, Commissioners. In your package, you should have a total of 8 exhibits. The first one being just an overall map of where all the projects are located. The green ones symbolizing with construction in progress, and the red ones that are still in the design and engineering phase. Project 232, State Route 99, water line extensions. The contract for this project is Seaboard Construction Company. Phase 2A, 3 are all complete. We are working with DOT and with the engineer of record and the contractor to revise the plans there, because we're trying to pay these to relocate the water line in. Sterling Baptist Church is one of the entities that we're trying to obtain easements from, and then use the county's utility easement along Scott Lee's property to install the water main to make a connection on 341. Project 319, Urbana Sanitary Sewer Replacement.
Okay. Well, before we go on project 232, the 2 stands for the year, the first 2, correct?
Correct, yeah. It's the last digit of the fiscal year that it was named the project.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been working on this thing now 5 years. Okay. And I know we've had a lot of problems with easements and things like that. Have we gotten easement issues settled?
We're close. We've had to obtain additional easements along 341 to install the water main.
And is all that survey work done?
The survey, yes, sir, we've received easement plans for that as well.
And where are we getting those easements?
The thought has talked to the Baptist Church itself, and so we're close. We might need a appraisal done for the easement itself, and then go to the Baptist Church again to obtain the easement.
Okay. I'm just disappointed that it's taken so long in some of these projects.
Project 319, Urbana Sanitary Sewer Replacement. The contract is Washington County Machine Shop out of Macon, Georgia. The project is pretty much complete. We have, I believe, about 4 punch list items that are required to be finished by the contractor, and we're awaiting record drawings for JWSC review. Project 421, Mansfield Street Sewer Replacement. Project contract is J. Stone Construction out of Brunswick. Currently, storm drain work is still going on at the intersection of Richmond and Newcastle Street. They have started placing the curbing along the Baptist Church, which is in progress. Water mains are mostly installed. The contractor is currently working on storm.
Henry, Mr. Patel, did I see, or Ms. Crosby, did I see that there was a claim from a vendor this week?
Yes, and that information that they were requesting with regard to the commencement date, the bond, Garrow from the city engineer, he's taken that with the city attorney and their handler, because the contract's in their name, not ours.
That question, I thought the completion date was supposed to have been September 30th. Got it to be determined now. What's
We haven't got an updated schedule from the city engineer regarding to the completion dates.
But the contractor stated completion date by September 30th.
That last group meeting,
Yeah, that's it, that's what was said, so now we're slipping it out to be determined. I mean, we can hold them to that date, let's try to hold them to that date until past that date, then we can we determine. We have another meeting to decide when we're gonna move it out.
we'll get back with the engineer and
Okay.
follow up on that, make sure.
Project 503, Canal Crossing Border Enforcement Improvements. This is a joint project with Glynn County. East Coast Asphalt is the contractor for this project out of Douglas. We had a meeting with the county on July 11th to go over project cost items with the contractor, and we're awaiting record drawings for JWSC review on this project. The county has issued the project completion date for this was September 1, 2017 to the contractor. Project 504, Canal Crossing Pump Station. This is JWSC project. Richardson Construction Company out of Douglas is the contractor. The project is pretty much complete. All JWSC is waiting for is submittal of record drawings for our project 505, Pump Station
Now,
27.
let me ask you a question. I apologize. 503 and 504 and 505, we're still waiting for record drawings. What is the normal time that it takes after the contractor completes the work to get record drawings?
If the field work by the contractors during construction was done and they were marking as they went, record drawings should take that long.
Okay, what do we have in these contracts that withholds money from the contractor final payment?
Yeah, we haven't made the final payment on this contract yet. I know.
But is it a significant amount?
On 505, yeah, because
Yes.
we're still holding up to like 5% remain. So effectively, they've done all the work but the drawings, and we're not gonna release that final amount until then. I know on the 2032 contract, the other two,
So,
During the inspections with your Conrads, do they actually make sure that they have the as-built of the red lines in their job trailer associated with the project?
Sure, that is normal protocol where they would redline the construction drawings, and that is what they use as reference or as-bills.
Because I don't know, and kind of going with what Commissioner Elliott said earlier, you know, some of these projects are notice to proceed March of 2015, projected completion date September 1st, 2017. You know, and there's more like that. Notice to proceed September 30th, 2015 with a contract duration of 180 days. And the projected completion date is August 31st, 2017.
I think some of that variance comes from the abilities of the contractors to execute the contract properly. As I understand it, we, on all the projects we've talked about just about, we've either had issues with the contractor not following the schedule they provided, or not executing the work in the way they said they would, or finding issues and discrepancies. And Commissioner Brown, you're from the construction industry. Those are the variables, and I don't know if it's the quality of contractors we've got here and their capabilities, or whether it's just the nature of the beast at times. We just run into a streak of folks that are having difficulties making the schedule. But
Well, you know, we simply, not talking about these three, but going back to Highway 99 out there, some things rather than contractors'
hands,
hands.
you're right, the easements.
You know, we've had right-of-way issues with DOT. And, you know, we sat in the meeting one day and said, hey, let's just stop the contractor until we work this stuff out. And so these timelines you see on here, out there. Now, I don't know the particular history about what was going on out at the Canal also on these 350 contracts. But I do recall on the county side, I remember hearing Dave Haney talk about whether it was a water sewer contractor or if it was some of the site contractors.
Water sewer.
There were some issues that come up out there where things had to stop for a while and they get worked out. And so, I mean, that's not to say that the contractors always live by schedule, but they turned in, to get it done.
But you're correct. There were some things that, there were some mistakes made by the contractors out there on that particular project. I don't remember the exact nature of the piping issues that we had to go back and rework. The location of the piping, put it backward and making the right connections were issues out there on that one. But you're right, on the Highway 99, 341, there were easement issues that, we had to work hard diligently with GDOT to get that worked out. Hopefully we've got those resolved.
Yeah, and I think here within the last week or so, we were out there working on 341 in Sterling, and that got stopped, right? Because of concern with GDOT. And so that.
I think that one's been worked out.
But
Get ready
that
to
took
go
some
back
time.
to work.
But that's
Not a lot of time, but it took some time. And so they were out there working. They would have worked right on, but they got it done if GDOT hadn't stepped in, But,
Even in that
but
particular
those things
project,
come
we
up.
had to change, in addition to the easements being a difficulty, the congestion of the right-of-way was with other utilities and things. In the end, we're changing some of the certain portion of it. We're going to go to a different technology just to be able to make the project happen. So we're having to adjust things on the fly in some of these projects.
Could I ask a question, back on the record drawings question? If we take, for example, Project 503, so I guess we walked the site and put our punch list together, and then we met with East Coast Asphalt on July the 11th, and we went over our punch list.
Correct.
And so we turned over the items we needed to have finished so that the project could be complete.
Yes.
So there'll be another walk now to ensure that those are done sometime between now and the end of the project.
That's correct.
And then we have, up above that, we have projected completion date of September the 1st, 2017.
That is what the county has issued, the contract, yes.
So that's coming. And then at the bottom of that project, we have awaiting revisions to record drawings. Are the record drawings turned over at the completion, after the completion, or before the completion?
Should be after the completion of all the punch lists.
So after we finish the job, so after they finish the punch list, and hopefully it's done by September 1st, then we'll expect them to give us record drawings.
Correct.
And it may not be feasible to expect them to have them done until after that date, because there may be some changes that occur in those punch list items.
Correct, because when the meeting happens, you have other entities that have their punch list items as well, like GR will have their separate punch list items, stuff like that, so they might have a longer list, which they need completed as well, as opposed to our list, which is short.
So for 503 then, awaiting revisions to record drawings, that's not holding the completion up.
No,
It's just a line item that's shown here.
Correct, correct.
Okay. So what's holding that job up at this time, now, is completion of the punch list.
Exactly. And like I said, that could be something as small as maybe raising a manhole cover, or in GDOT's case, it could be strapping again, or the pavement is not the way they want it, and they want to repave and stuff like that.
So we would expect as soon as they finish that job, as soon as it's determined completed, then they have the red lines in the trailer, they'll convert them over to record drawings very quickly.
Correct.
And we'll probably have them in a week.
Once we have them, we do another walkthrough, like you said, and go over it again. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
I just have one other question. Is holding back 5% within the range of normal contracts like that, or just a low figure?
I would say that's a fair amount because, 5% project Project 505, if you held back 5% of almost $2 million, that's $100,000. Those set of drawings, and all you gotta do is take the red lines and make them in the record. That's a bunch of money.
I'm just, you know, I don't know the ballpark.
Yeah.
And I will say that specific project, because if you look at the start dates of 503 and 504, and we started 505, we did a lot of tightening down in the contracts and the deliverables in Project 505, based on some of the experiences we had, getting the things we wanted out of 503 and 504. We're trying to learn, you know, improve as we go, but.
I know in my separate life, it's minimum 10%.
That's right, that's what I was gonna say. We would have 10%, and then we had the ability to release some of those funds along the way if the contractor was making progress like we wanted him to.
Initially.
That's why this one's 5 now.
Correct.
So it was 10 and
It-
it's dropped down to
right.
5.
Right.
I personally have had the experience with 5 as well in the projects I've had to deal with over the years.
This one was, though, to clarify, was higher, and because the work is actually done on, this is just 505 we're talking now, because we were happy with the results, we did actually finish that project on time, and the work itself is completed, and we're just waiting on drawings, that's why it's still only for 5% this one.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't have I mean, you can incorporate to your bid documents, you know, a fee, if you want to call it a fee, or retainage, you know, covering, you know, if the work is substantially complete, you know, you can pay 90% and retain 10 to get your punch list, and get your record drawings and all that. You can set it at 10, or if you wanted to, you know, if you put it in words and just make that standard procedure, you know, you know, the federal government, they have something like that, and everybody does work for it, knows that there's going to be and maybe they've changed it now. They want to hold back 10% until everything is, all the administrative things are done. And I say administrative, 10%. 10% on any job is, that's your profit or more. A lot of times, the contractor only puts 5% if he wants a job real bad, you know. He may get 5%. Mine's hold that 10%. He's operating out of his pocket if he's completed the job.
Have we ever tried the opposite effect with some of these contractors? Have we ever tried incentive contracts?
In our design build contract, when we get into that, when we're asking you to approve that guaranteed maximum price, there is a provision in there to give them some incentive financially to finish early. But we haven't actually applied that during my experience here yet, but we are trying to do that in this project for North Main Swamp Phase 1.
Well, that's the kind of concern that I have, is that the county is expecting us to get those projects done within the time frame of the spots. So,
And I'm trying to put it in contracts so that we can incent them to do so.
Industry standard on that would be if you, you know, you just employ liquidated damages in the contract.
We've got the limit liquidated, but we go the other way too. In this particular, as Ms. Crosby was saying, we understand what's going on out there in the community. And we know that as Chairman Elliott said, we've got pressure on us to finish these projects up timely. And all of it involved, I thought it was a good addition that staff came up with to add the incentive to finish it as early as they could with a, what is it, 1 month. If they finish up a month ahead of time, we give them their extra token.
Now, and I will say, our legal counsel said, should we pay people for just doing the job that we hired them to do? But we do have it in there.
Well, the problem that we found in my alternate life there is that even if you charge liquidated damages, the contractor actually fluffs his number at the beginning to accommodate for some
LDs. So it's like, man, we just can't win.
Yeah, you're right.
It's that risk issue.
You know, that was something I never really liked to see, even as a contractor. I mean, I knew I was gonna put money in there. You know, if something come up out of my control, I just couldn't help it. I'm not gonna pay that out of my profit. So the customer's paying it. I mean, I pay it back, you know. So,
That's the way.
it's like,
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Matt.
In regards to work project for 505, the 2032 project, we did have the startup event held on July 21st, 2017. If you look at the second and third attachment, the second one shows how everything on the northern end of the island was all yellow prior to the project completion. And the third one just shows it all the yellow going away with just 2 stations on the whole island, which have capacity issues now.
So those are all now just yellow?
The yellow ones have now turned green, correct?
Oh, okay.
So the first and
Correct.
So we only have 2?
Yeah, we have 2 red ones, and then we're already working on the south end right now.
So, Alan, this is approved site plans, correct?
Sorry?
These are, the capacity we have now should be for approved site plans.
Correct. And then
For
you
sewer.
we pretty much started accepting when it's
Yeah,
done.
I
when
guess
we
what
get-
I'm saying is, this includes all of West Point, includes all that's approved in Frederick Township. All right,
But it's just approval of construction plans, not just a stop plan. They have to have approved construction plans by us to know.
yeah, they have approved construction.
Correct.
That's what you're telling me.
Yes, so like Pleasant Grove is one that has approved construction plans.
So what that's telling me is that we don't have any, if all these people fill that up, do we have the capacity for a Sinclair plantation and for anything that they may do at Musgrove? Or do we know?
They have to do a study for that, especially the one you just mentioned, they have to do a study for that, because it might need, that force main that runs to their parcel might need to be upgraded, but not the stations.
Okay, but we've already considered in the amount that we've got up there, Sinclair plantation.
Yes.
Okay.
On project 701, sorry. This is pump station 4048, force main improvement project. The contractor is Stevie Landmark. This project is commence August 7 with a 120 days completion limit. It's approximately 3,200 linear feet of horizontal directional drill, jacket bore, and open cut methods. We have received all the permitting needed for the railroad. Pipe has already been pre-purchased and delivered portions of it already. Today, we have a public meeting which is scheduled at Brunswick High at 6 p.m. This is the initial component to open a small amount of the north main capacity and it's coordinated with response to phase 1. Page 4 shows the route of the force main and the construction. This project will be broken down into 2 phases. Phase 1 being the tying point and the installation along 5th Street. And then phase 2 will be along Branham Avenue and the ballpark. So we have our public meeting this evening at 6 p.m. in Brunswick High.
5:30 to 7. Mr. Rothman.
with a couple of projects which are in design progress. Project 501, Water Circle, sea pumps, water main installation, EMC Engineering Services, the engineer of record for this one. We're waiting for revaluation of the project scope and rebidding for this project. Project 603, Pollard Street, rehab and replacement. HHNT out of Macon is the engineer of record. This is SPLOST funded project. The engineering design is complete, the documents have been received and under review. Once we get a construction schedule, we'll be turning this over to Glenn County for construction being awarded.
Can I ask a question, just out of curiosity? Project 501, apparently you hired an engineering company, they came up with the scope, their estimate was $242,000, and apparently we put it out for bid and nobody came with a reasonable bid, so we're going to reevaluate the scope.
There was an issue with one of the line items for paving. And that is why it has been pulled back and it will be sent to rebid once they correct that bid.
Okay.
Okay. If we're not bidding this project, is this thing designed for boring?
Which Auto Circle?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Would paving be an issue if we bored it? You may not know, but I'd kind of like to, have us look at it, because can we do it if we board it? Because we're not talking a very big line item.
No, so
For
it's just loop D8 so that they can have fire protection.
What is it?
One of the reasons this project changed also is the scope of the work when it was looked at, started with. Auto Circle just makes a small loop there.
I know.
The main that it's tied to is also a 6-inch transite line. So we looked at backing back up toward Frederica and bringing a line all the way in through all of it.
Okay. But the SPLOST project is only all their survey. So that would have to be money that we would take out of our pocket
But
to
boring
add that.
could be an option. There may be room to get in there for forward.
Would we be able to, is there room in the shoulder, or is there too congested, too tight?
Everything's in the ground over there. You'd have to go really deep and suck your way through your tap, but
Okay.
services.
You're saying there's so much stuff in the ground, you'd have to go really deep, right? You'd have to go really deep if you open and cut it too. And you have a lot more problems.
Probably wind up in the middle of the road, right down beside the old main if you open cut.
Yeah, even if you bore out in the middle of the road, you're gonna have to open the road to get the
Right.
taps for the house.
You won't wind up opening the road either way you go, even if you bore under the road.
Okay, so what I'm talking about is not feasible because of the way the line is already.
May make it easier to get the line in the ground, but you still gonna wind up opening it up. Pretty much, the way the meters are set up there, you pretty much gonna have a hole about every 20 foot.
Okay.
Project 702, this is a SPLOST project, the North Mainland Sewer Basin Redock. You do have 4 attachments which are broken down into phases. Phase 1 through phase 4 shows the proposed routes of these extensions. Like I said, they're divided into 4 phases to expedite. It is a long-term component of solution for the North Mainland. Phase 1, as Pam just discussed earlier, has been awarded to Constantine, and that is why we had the pump pre-purchase agreement today. Phase 2, we're working with engineer record on that one, to extend the 20-inch force main that we stopped at Ogden Drive to carry it down further down Ogden and past pump station 4036 to B&W Gray Road. That engineering is I'd say 100% complete. We're just, we'll have to obviously obtain easements for that section and permitting from Army Corps, Railroad, and DNR for that project as well. So that's something we'll start for earlier just to make sure that we're ahead of that on that aspect of the permitting. Phase 3 is the new 20-inch force main installation from pump station 4110 to Canal Road. Phase 4 is the reroute of pump station 4039 force main and 4109 force main to Canal Road. Projected construction for pump station 4110 is between 8 to 12 months and 2 to 3 years in total for the project.
So phase 1 would be, is there a completion date, forecasted completion date on phase 1 since it's awarded?
Phase 1, I believe, is the end of the year, because that's the one with all the pumps and jockey pumps and stuff like that.
That's our target at this point. We'll know a little bit more in 2 weeks once we have that 30% to review.
The engineering's almost complete on phase 2.
The
Did
preliminary,
Preliminary.
Just a design concept.
basically just the route and some of the geotechnical stuff. We met about that yesterday.
Geotechnical. I thought everything was just sand.
Who's doing the evaluation of all the downstream receiving sewer?
Four waters. And we should be having an update from them, I believe, the 15th or the 16th on those. That's our next update for those, for the evaluation for phase 3.
What was the 15th?
One.
Aren't we using our modeling software? Don't we have instantaneous answers on this?
Not for condition assessment. Flow capacity, yes, sir, but not condition assessment. And that's a lot of what the problem is with the downstream conveyance issue is condition.
Are all 4 of these phases consecutive? Can one phase, for example, if phase 1 falls behind, can phase 2 begin before phase 1 is completed?
Yes.
They're not all on the critical path.
Because if you look at the map, for phase 1, phase one is kind of, you could say technically a part of, or the pump station 4048 project is part of
Phase 1
phase.
had to happen in sync.
Correct.
Because phase 1 is a lot of pump upgrades and things in preparation for the 4048. But phase 2 is actually where we start the first of the drilling.
Phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 will kind of happen all.
They can happen concurrently.
Yes.
Phase 1 has to be finished for 2, 3, and 4. Okay.
Project 703, pump station 4003, decommission and gravity sewer. SPLOST 2016 was 3.3 million, it was budgeted at 6.8. This is the elimination of pump station 4003 and taking gravity all the way straight to the treatment plant. Preliminary engineering in progress to design, to determine scope and product specifications. Project 704, Canal Road to Glencoe Parkway, 12-inch water main loop. Pre-engineering is in progress. Discussions happening with Glynn County in regards to routes and the widening of Canal Road and all that. We are going to utilize approximately 300 linear feet of 12-inch C900 from the pump station 2030 project. This will eliminate the single feed to Glencoe Parkway, Airport and Fletsey, and Loop Canal Crossing. We have already installed the water main along Altano Canal, which was completed last week. Project 705, Cartala Road to Old Jessup 12-inch water main loop. This is at the intersection of Cade Road and Old Jessup. Engineering design is complete. We're just investigating additional pressure reducing valves to regulate effects on water production facilities and modeling in progress.
Is 704 also in-house? Yeah.
Yes.
When you take on these projects, Derek, what's that gonna do to our reactive maintenance?
Cartala was kind of a rush job. We had looked at trying to get a loop in on that system after the main valve broke on us that shut pretty much everything down 321 Perry Lane down. We re-looked at this job, and I actually got a stub out sticking right here. This would be a better boring job to put in. They can dig a pit right by old Jessup, shoot right back up out the other end and tie it together. I've got 2 railroad crossings. I've spoken with Todd on this project, and I might have to look at it a little different. The hot tub job where I wanted to run it, there's a nice new fiber optic cable in there. But as far as I reacted, that's what I told Todd. When we start that, it's pretty much, we hit it as much as we can. We get something major, we have to pull out and go fix the leak or whatever and come back. The whole project looks like it might be a bore now.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Thank you very much.
Good evening, Director, Chairman, and Commissioners. I was asked today to come in and give you a quick overview of the last 2 months of rain events and effects on the flood treatment plant at Dunbar and Academy Creek versus the last previous 10 months, which that, if you look into your blue booklet here, it gives you some sort of direction in the front as far as what some of this means. But if you want to take a quick look at what I have here, it's stating municipal input, average flow, municipal influence, max data flow, Pine Over, it's the industrial that comes into the Academy Creek plant. The effluent average monthly flow, the effluent maximum flow, data flow. Rain inches average, rain inches max, rain inches total. Then the percent capacity that this flow is using at the time. Based on the last 2 months, June and July, I did, which won't be on your list, looked into it and got a rainfall of, in June, a monthly rainfall of 6.14 in June. In July was 5.61. That's a total monthly rainfall, that won't be on your chart. Actually, what you see on your chart is actually the rain gauge that's actually at its local facility, Dunbar Creek facility, and also the Academy Creek facility. I don't have any data of the rain that may have fallen around the area and not directly on the plant, but we do get the flow. So based on the flow data, 1 inch to 1 million gallon flow, basically what it equates to. So if there's any questions,
I'd like to make a comment. Excuse me. Thank you for getting this together for us today, Mark. I think the thing to note here for the commission, particularly on the Dunbar Creek plant, we had seen relatively low numbers over the dry period for the last couple of years, except for the 2 months that we had the tropical storm back in September and the hurricane in October. The last 2 months here, we've had the dog days of regular showers, excuse me, and the rain-induced infiltrate, or I&I, is jumping up, showing its head now, which by the numbers we see here, if we ran by what had been going on the last 2 years, aside from that, the 2 months that we had the storms, you know, it gave us one picture of where we're at in terms of capacity and where we need to be in terms of upgrading the plant and getting it where it would have more capacity. Looking at the I&I based on the rain that we're seeing at the plant, I'm assuming that's probably pretty representative of what's going on around the island there. We're looking at a situation that puts us really into another echelon of need. Fortunately, I will say that as we're doing the assessments right now, Mark and staff are working with a consultant right now to do the assessments to the plants, but I know one of the things that's going on is that the Dunbar Creek plant, when we make the updates and upgrades to it, our estimated flow will increase by 1 million gallons a day of treatable capacity. So it's very timely that we're working on this. The bond issue that we'll be going for this fall will be instrumental in us getting there and understanding what we're doing and getting those upgrades finalized and estimated so that we can get the accurate bond issue, start the process of making the application so that we can get the money by early 2018, January, February, March at the latest, is going to be critical, I think, to making sure we meet the needs of the system. One of the things I will also stress is that, there's been discussion that EPD may be difficult to work with to get the additional capacity. Pots and pans can handle it, or excuse me, the tanks and the equipment can handle it. The issue that I keep hearing is that they're really persistent on getting the I&I issues, which is unrelated to the plant. That's going out and making sure all the lines and collectors in the system are working and sealed so that we don't get groundwater and we don't get rain and flow. Mark, is that correct? Did I understand that right when we've talked, you and I and Angela, that the EPD is very conscious of putting the utilities on notice to get the I&I issues down before they expand capacity at their plants?
Yes, sir, but they, of course, we was in that meeting, they want us to do that study, just to try to prove our point. But, yeah, that's what it was based on.
Okay.
Controlling I&I, the inflow.
But this is timely information because of what we got going on, and again, it stresses the need for us to move forward quickly and aggressively to get the analysis done, get the bond issues working, and get the work started at the plants. Thank you, Mark.
All right.
One thing I'd like to add to this, because I'd like this to be a monthly review. And we've got the basics now, what we're looking at, but it's the BOD, how we're doing
Yeah,
against that.
we can add that to it. We actually do an annual on the plant, and BOD, TSS, and everything is included. We just broke this down for the flow.
Okay.
Add another column next time for the
BOD,
Okay.
because,
incoming BOD.
Okay.
because as you all have explained to me several times, the flows are up, but when we have a rainy month, the BOD goes down.
Well, basically, when the flow's up and the hydraulics is much more than what's normally is, you set your inventory low in order to compensate for a washout. So therefore, if you keep your blanket low, you keep it, as your water, of course, if it's raining water coming across, it'll go pass on through. Of course, it ain't gonna take a whole lot of solids with it.
One of the things too, that to the point that Mark's making, is that flow, if you get the flow loadings from inflow and infiltration during the rain events, it's driving that BOD number way down. So it's a clear indicator of what the BOD coming in, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, is an indicator of how much I&I we've got. And during this rainy period we've seen, the BOD number coming in probably has dropped a lot more than normal. But even without, during the dry seasons, the dry months, the numbers you were showing me, we were seeing BODs that were half or less than half in some months the normal BOD, which means there's enough going on in a dry environment in terms of groundwater with our, the defects in our system are bad enough that with the high water tables we have, we're leaching a lot of groundwater in, which is overloading the plant. And if you could knock half the flow off to get that concentration back up where it should be, we'd have about, 25 or 40%, somewhere in that range of total capacity we'd be using on a monthly basis instead of jumping up here to 70 or 80%.
Right. Well, Dunbar as a whole, it usually rains on an average
flow month, it'll stay below, around 65%. Of course, the last 2 months, we were up at respectively 79 and 82% for June and July, because of the last rain. If we can stop the inflow and infiltration, we can buy ourselves some time. And I think EPD was one of the main concentrations that's for us to consider all of that.
Okay.
Another issue that's related is a lot of the I&I is in our lines, but there's a lot of private lines that have I&I problems. And I met with Kirk's people with one of the people have a private system that comes into us, and they're pushing right now in a heavy rain up 1 million gallons a month. For their system that's collapsing, and we told them they've got to get it fixed. And we do have a way of assessing or finding people who don't take care of their part too. So we have a lot of private people who contribute to that I&I that's causes us problems.
How are we tracking the I&I that they're giving us?
There's not a real easy way to do that, except, well, in the Epworth's case, we actually meter their flows.
The sewer.
But for the general public, where we're using their water meter as a basis for sewer charges, if they've got a defective lateral that's draining the yard or draining groundwater or rainwater, whichever, we don't have a real easy way of short of just going out there and constantly monitoring what a given neighborhood or street does.
They were excited because their bill is so high. So that's why we went.
No, I would argue that if you're putting a meter on there, and it shows that they have I&I, and they should have a surcharge, supplemental charge on top of that to account for the I&I.
That's why we strongly encourage them to go fix their problem.
Just for the addition of, this area receives about 45 inches of rain a year. And we currently is somewhere around 28, I think it's, I have it down there, 28 inches right now for a year.
Well below normal.
Well, we're getting that when the rainy season come in here in October.
Well,
Storms.
is the rainy system, okay, I'm confused for a second. You said it was 45 inches a year?
45 inches.
That's for the whole year.
Yeah.
We're only halfway through.
Yeah.
You're talking a calendar year, correct?
Right. Yeah, calendar year.
Yeah. So
Calendar year.
he's got a long time to make up.
What?
He's got a long time to make up. I know it rains this period,
Oh, yeah.
and hurricane and
Hurricane
all
season,
that.
yeah, we'll definitely get that. I think we'll meet that 45.
Uh,
All right.
Any other questions? Well, where we at? Let me see. Mr. Executive Director, you're on.
I'm up. The only two things I had today, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we did meet with our newly engaged financial consultant to look at some of the issues that are look to be possibilities to help us with our situation, monitoring our customer base and our usage and our billing process and the way we build our bills. I think there'll be, as we get the database and the model, financial model, rate model built, there'll be some discussions, further discussions with you all in Finance Committee to work on possibly some changes to our operating agreement to modify and better manage what's going on. We feel like there are certain segments of our population right now that are getting basically a free ride on a lot of the O&M requirements that are needed to manage the system and keep it ready. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be looking at some options for making sure that we keep water rates affordable for folks that need the help. Can't do anything about what it's costing us to do what we got to do to maintain the service, but we can maybe adjust some things to make sure we help folks that need a good deal of help with affordability. And we're going to be working on some options there. More to come on that as we get further down the road and develop the model and start to do some what-if scenarios. We're going to be looking at things that are already proven options in other utilities around the country. Fortunately, we've got a big enough consultant in the water utility industry that they've got a lot of clients and a lot of experience and have seen a lot of these issues and are going to be going back to the well on what they've already seen and done to give us some advice on areas where we can make some moves and improve what we're doing and better manage what we need for the future and without having to raise rates as much, or maybe at all in some cases. The other item that I had today was a quick update. I think at the last meeting we talked about a neighborhood called Shadow Lake that had a problem with odors, and I'm sure you probably heard about it on the radio or read about it. But the big issue is we had a serious complaint from one of our customers out in the neighborhood of Shadow Lake. And when we went out to respond to the issues, staff checked it out, and there did appear to be issues. We would flush the lines would immediately or near immediately come back and inspect in terms of the water chlorine residual. It got to the point where this repeated over a period of about 3 weeks, and we went back and staff found that apparently some critical valves around this particular little stretch of the neighborhood had been closed or significantly restricted at some point in the past. Talking to the staff, we hadn't done any work out there in forever. There was no records of any work in the area, so we don't know how the valves got closed. I do know that staff has indicated to me that they have been consciously going out and searching and checking out valves and found some 140 or so valves here and there that have been closed or partially closed when they came upon them. Typically, the valves should be remain open so that we get good looping and resiliency or redundancy. So that if something happens on one side of the line, you've got flow coming from the other side. But for whatever reason, these valves were closed at some point in the past. Not by our staff. We're not sure that it wasn't maybe from contract folks. We don't know, but they were closed, and we're continuing to look at those issues. At this point, because of the way the valves were closed and isolated for this neighborhood, our best analysis after looking at all the numbers, all the treatment, what was going on at the production facilities, what was going on in the rest of the neighborhood, our best analysis is that the flows had been restricted to a point, and it was old enough water that there was complete loss of chlorine residual at the end of this particular street where we got the complaint. And it was a cul-de-sac type situation. And looking at the analysis that we did, staff informs me that while we did on one occasion get a positive for coliform is not a pathological bacteria. It's just an indicator that you're without chlorine residual of the sorts. The coliform indicator also tells us if there's E. coli, which is a pathogen. We had no E. coli present on the date we tested. So we feel like the water, though it didn't have chlorine residual, was not an issue for the public. At this time, we've opened all the valves, we've got flow through, and chlorine residual has been sustained ever since we did that. So we feel like we resolved the issue. The mystery of how the valves got closed or partially closed there and elsewhere in the system will remain a mystery unless somebody comes forward. But at this point, we're doing our best to go and track those issues down and undo what's been done. And so this doesn't repeat itself somewhere else. In addition, staff is looking at some means to help with notifications when we come up against these issues and try to give people in neighborhoods a quicker, more reliable way to notify them of changes in system condition or status. Particularly in this case, we were worried about the possibility that there was some cross-contamination, so we shut the system down and isolated it, which put us into a boil water alert. It turns out there were no cross connections, there was no problems there, but there were some concerns over the fact that some of the neighbors didn't realize when we did and didn't have the boil water alert in effect for that area. So we're working on some specific policy or program changes to make that less of a burden or issue for our customers out there. Beyond that, those are the two big things today I wanted to cover. I don't have really anything else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of things that I want to talk about real quick. We've talked about kind of where we're going with this utility and kind of the assessment through the master plans of where we are. And we're talking about borrowing money and significant amounts of money to do that with. And part of what we need to start to put together is what we're going to look like in 20 or 25 years when we rebuild the utility. And this is something that all developers that come to us anytime come in with us with how they're going to take a plot of land and what it's going to look like after they're finished doing what they're going to do. Well, we need to kind of do that to the whole water sewer system so that we know what we're building to and we know the technology that we're going to use in the future. Mark operates one of the oldest plants in terms of technology, and we need newer technology to do those things with. And while we can't shut the plant down, change it, and then start it again because that doesn't work, we have to figure out how we're going to transform Academy Creek and make it a modern plant and with modern technology to function. So I was kind of messing with some stuff, thinking about it, but I got to thinking about in whatever time frame that it takes for us to rebuild this system to where it can provide our ratepayers in this county the kind of water and sewer service that they deserve and should have. How are we gonna, look at that? And kind of, we're talking about borrowing money. That's gonna cost the ratepayers a lot of money because fixing the stuff and not necessarily expanding the stuff is a ratepayer expense. That's the logical thing that we take money for that we need to fix. But sometimes we have a lot to do, and that gets passed to the ratepayer. We have to change the technology and all of that. But at the end of this time frame, what I have kind of set as the goal, I've been using 20 years, is that the rate structure as it is today and what they pay for water and sewer service should, in terms of constant dollars, be the same when we complete the rebuilding of the plant. Now, during that time frame, the costs may go up in terms of rates to pay for the debt, but when the debt and is all repaid, then there should not really be a change in what our rates are. In fact, hopefully, it'll be lower because we'll eliminate things. And these are the kinds of things that I would like to see us get the technology to eliminate. So that we're doing planned maintenance and not reactive maintenance. I think that that's very key. I'd like to see us somehow eliminate boil water alerts for unplanned outages. Now, we have a planned outage, okay, but unplanned outage, that ought to go away. we ought to eliminate all sewer spills and leakages into the environment. That's a major goal of what I think we should be doing. There should not be any other issues. We ought to figure out a way to, if I understand the process correctly, the longer it sits in the line, the more it stinks up. We need to find ways to either start the process of treating that effluent before it gets to the plant, which eliminates those others, which I think we can do. I want to see if we can get to fully looped distribution lines. I think that's key. And I got Pamela looking to find a vendor to give us a class on incorporating antimicrobial capability into our water distribution lines. That way, maybe, and I don't know whether we can eliminate putting chlorine in it. I don't know if we ever will, but, you know, let's look and see what it says. Part of this demands for us to have construction standards that everybody adheres to in what we do. Meaning that if this guy over here wants to have a private system, that he still has to comply with our construction standards and our construction methodologies. We have way too many systems out there that are substandard and were actually built substandard. We need to figure that how we can do something in that area and make sure our construction standards are there. We need to encourage the use of electronic money so that we don't have people writing us checks and processing checks. I think we have the technology now to do it that way. We just have to start the transition. And, you know, I'm not so naive to think that we can get totally electronic, but I really would like to have about 90% of the payments that way. And another area of wastewater processing that we get really concerned about fog, and the plant doesn't handle it well. Hopefully in the technologies that we decide to put in the plants, we don't allow fog to affect our plants. That becomes less of an issue. Doesn't mean it doesn't affect the transmission or the conveyance of it, but if we can eliminate that in the plants, I think that would be really good. I'd also like to get to a point where we have byproducts that come out of what we do in wastewater treatment. We ought to be able to sell those products to offset the pressures on the rate structure. We need to find ways to do that and incorporate that into a plan to do that. We also need to ensure that our product quality meets or exceeds compliance with regulatory requirements, and that it's consistent with customer, public health, and ecological and economic needs. And I think there's going to be a lot more pressure ecologically that we're going to have to address in the future in the ways that we do things. So having said all of that, I'm going to ask Jimmy and the staff to kind of host a workshop on October 19th, if we can, which is a commission day, and I'd like you all to try to clear your calendars for that. It's a regular commission scheduled day, so it's not out of the ordinary. To kind of take this and look at it for the next, what, 2.5 months, and come up with the ideas of things that we can do to maybe achieve some of these objectives I have, and to come up with their own objectives. Because we're dealing, you know, with everything, and we need to know how we can look and what we can do. And the last thing I want to talk about is that we need to look at what the work skills that we're going to need in the future to function in the environment and with the technology that we're saying, and start looking to see, you know, where those skills can come from. I don't see any change in the current workforce skills for a while, but towards the latter part, and as everything comes online, we have to make sure we have people that can operate and take care of these things. So, any comment?
Yes, sir, I got one. I agree with you. I like the long range outlook. And I think we need to set a mid-range goal too as well, to hit those points or have it, that those are points that we hit that we move forward. As far as you talked about the workforce, I do agree with that too. Technology sometimes phases out processes, and processes is what we have that makes us continue to operate. And our employees are the ones who make sure those processes do work. And then that give our employees upward mobility, employee development to shift with the times as technology move forward too as well. So I do agree with that. And it put our employees on notice that we are a company that we're moving forward, and that we want to bring our employees with us. And if they decide to stay back in the Stone Age, then they will stay back in the Stone Age. You know, but we're gonna move this company to a new way of doing business, so to speak. So I do agree with you 100% there.
I'd like to say, I agree with what the mayor was just saying, and I think that the new skills, I mean, those people may not be growing on trees around here, but I do think we have capable people within our organization that have the abilities to grow if we'll provide the training. And it'll mean extra expense, extra time, but honestly, it's the best in the long run for us, because the folks that already understand what's going on and how things work, adding to their skill sets, giving them additional training, growing them, it's a lot easier than going out and trying to find it.
Okay, another discussion points, we need to go into executive session. So, yeah, we're going into executive session, so can I have a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session?
Correction, second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, we'll go into executive session, about 5 minutes. Is that enough time for that?
What?
What?
What for?
Oh, personnel and legal. Okay.
And property.
Sure.
Pick something up.
Maybe that's the problem, not doing anything.
All right. Okay.
Back down.
And we're gonna pass out.
Add it to the agenda.
What?
Add it to the agenda.
Yeah, okay. Kind of a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, we have one item to vote on, and that is the sale of the property.
You want me to present?
Sure.
We had a parcel that y'all declared as surplus. It's a piece out on 17 behind Nick's. And we had it appraised. We had a bid. Both of those bids were below the appraised value. So we rebid it. And we only had one bidder on the second go-around, but their bid, we had it appraised, it was $45,000. They did $53,251.51. And the motion would be that move that Brunswick-Glynn County Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve to award the sale of the BGJWSC lot at 105 Nottingham Drive, Brunswick, Georgia, to Nikki G. Lee in the amount of $53,251.51.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Tom? Okay. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. We're out of here, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we made money.